encouragement, and I know when he did it. Let's rise. How did? Yeah, I got to get that out. Think about the tough times you've been through in the past. And at that moment, you didn't think you was going to make it, and you made it.
Yeah,
All right, now you know what?
hey, hey,
Oh, we don't need my answer. Okay,
No,
Lesette,
no,
move
I
on.
want your answer. Go on, say your answer, please.
See, you know what?
I'm trying to cut you out. I ain't trying
Yeah,
to cut you out.
oh Lord.
So you know what we did to him? We took him to doggy daycare. Yes,
she
we
told it.
we took him to doggy daycare. So maybe they can teach him some manners that maybe we can't teach him. And just remember that you know what, you are directing your life within yourself. So whatever you want your life to be, whatever you do today is going to decide your future for tomorrow. So make sure you direct it carefully. All right. Come on, come on, rise. Let's go higher, higher, higher. When you enjoy something that you really enjoy, that you enjoy what you really enjoy, but you enjoy what you really do.
What did you just say? That
I
messed me up.
messed me up too.
I was waiting for the hair to go all over the place when you said that, but I think you got through it.
But
No, she did it anyway.
howdy, howdy, partner. How y'all doing today? Wow, it is so nice to be here on Rise with Lesette. You know what? I hope your day is going well so far because we're going to have a great show on Rise with Lisette today. We have Mr. Henry Harris on the show. And I'm telling you, it's like beyond the sound. You got to go behind the sound and see what is all involved in bringing that sound the right way and with the right so it can go where it needs to go. The fundamental basics for artists. Okay, if you got an artist out there, you know, a musician, a singer that's into the music industry, you need to tell them to get your butt on this. You need to tell them to come on over here today and hear this wisdom from Mr. Henry Harris. Don't forget to tell a neighbor, tell a friend, subscribe. And you know what? We're going to have a great show, all right? You
You
know,
skipped that safety tip, which is great. You skipped the part, and I'm glad you did, where you tell people to go knock on their neighbor's door. Tell them
they might get shot nowadays if they do that. I
at
don't even
11
advise
a.m.
you
this
to do
morning.
that. You know what I'm saying? You don't need to do
Um,
that.
Somebody wrote, "If her howdies get any longer, you're not going to be able to put them on T-shirts.
Whatever.
There won't be enough letters left."
Whatever.
And someone also wrote the other day that you guys have literally the best guests on any of your shows, which is
Thank
a good
you.
compliment. And also that means you guys need to watch more shows because sometimes we have the same guest. But we do really have really good guests on the show, and I like that our guests aren't just filler guests; they're actually guests that bring a lot to the table.
Yes.
And the last one I want to write that somebody wrote in from watching our last couple of shows is, I love the dynamic between you and Lisette. She brings the seriousness and you just bring the entertainment. I'm serious sometimes, right?
That is so cool. That is so cool. I love the energy too, y'all. I'm telling you. I love the energy. But you
Wait,
know what?
wait, it's not cool. They called me the goofball of the show. Lisette, back me up.
I thought I was a goofball. I didn't know. I mean, I'm just being me. I'm goofy all day long, you know. I love to smile and I love to
Mhm.
laugh. It gets the heaviness and the weight off of you.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, you got to shake a leg and you got to shake a leg sometimes. You got to laugh and you got to get that heaviness off because
Mhm,
laughter, you know, is good for the soul. And you know what? That's something that I saw funny on the internet this
mhm,
morning.
mhm.
They had this man under the car, fixing his car under the car. Somebody else may have seen it. And then they had this little dog on the side over there, and he had his little legs up in the air like he was holding the car up for the man, and something that there was a noise in the background, and he said, He said, I don't know, you better make sure you better hold it, you better hold it, or you ain't gonna get no food or something. It was something, it was just funny. I just thought that was the funniest thing. I thought it was so funny.
And the smallest things that bring you joy. That's, for everything that people talk about the internet, they always miss the things on the internet that brings you joy and things from other people that you would never met, funny content, creative content. And hey, it's a good segue while we're talking about being creative and content. We have a wonderful guest today. You want to go ahead and bring him in?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. For all you artists out there, I'm telling you, I know how it feels to have great music and not, you feel like it's not going anywhere, it's not getting out there where it needs to be. But there are actually some rules and fundamentals and some things that you got to do, some basic fundamentals to get the music out there right. So you thinking that it's the sound, it's not necessarily the sound. Sometimes it's the way you're doing your business part of the aspect. All right. And we got Mr. Henry Harris up here to tell us more about that. Welcome, Mr. Henry Harris, to the show.
Hey, hi, Lesette. Thanks for having me. Good to be on your show today.
And you are so welcome. So good to have you. Just to say a little thing about Mr. Harris. I mean, he's got such a great bio, and I know we don't always do all the bio, but I mean, I was reading your bio that you have a master in business, in music business, and also you have a master in science and in management. Even the fact that you even was on the advisory board for the Stellar Awards, that's a great honor, and that you are still you were the former president of the board. That's powerful. So
That's,
you know all about this stuff.
well, I try to educate myself constantly because information is power, and you have to have that information in order to be successful in helping people.
This is
I,
awesome. So
I love that he
you
said
are
that,
now in
Lisette.
Maryland, right?
That's correct.
I love that. I love what he just said about knowledge is power because the people with the knowledge have the power. And it's always been a thing where Mr. Harris, right? People will gatekeep the knowledge, right? The more that this artist doesn't know, the more control we have and the more we can do without their know it all. But the thing I love about a lot of artists today, still there should be more. That's why people like you exist that try to learn and get the knowledge of how the business works. Um, because it's a powerful thing.
Yeah, that's you're absolutely right in reference to that. There is I'm not sure if Lisette remembers when she went to our classes, but there was a saying that we always started off with, and that is information is power,
Mhm.
shared information is strategic power. And when we share information, guess what? We identify resources that create opportunities.
That is so true. To create opportunities for
That is
people.
correct.
Mhm.
That's awesome, Mr. Harris. Yes, I did go to your class, and it helped me out so much, and I can go back to some more. I mean, sometimes you just can't always get it all in one class. You want to go, can I go back again? Especially for the thick people.
Well,
I mean,
and yeah, you can always go back to the classes again. Matter of fact, we had an artist, I'm not sure if you remember Talumide, there's an artist, Talumide. Every time we had the classes, she went through the process.
Mhm.
And so she has to have gone through those classes at least. I think we did it for 9 years. So each year she went through.
wow, that this is awesome. So I'm kind of curious, what sparked your interest in doing this? I mean, what is it that made you say, "Well, I really got to help these indie artists. I got to help them."
Well, this is how it happened. Um, First of all, let me just say this myself. I was an artist and I didn't realize it. And I'm sure there's a lot of artists out there who feel that, they're artists, they want to do music or whatever. But I was one of those persons who who played drums. I played drums in church starting out. And then I switched to keyboards and I played the keyboards and drums while I was in the service for various groups.
Wow.
Okay. So that's sort of the framework. And so like I said, being an artist and didn't know it, I didn't know everything that comes with it. So when I was invited to be a part of the Stellar Gospel Music Academy Advisory Board, I was excited because I was already in it. I was already in music, doing music. So I said, hey, this is going to be great. But when I got on the board, I realized that there were so many gatekeepers, like you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many gatekeepers in position, and they said, "Hey, welcome to the board. We're going to put you on the membership committee." And I said, "Okay, I can do that because we can encourage other artists to become participants." And when I got on the membership committee, they assigned like three or four other people with me, uh, that we actually keep in touch with today, and we talk from time to time.
Mm-hmm.
We expanded the membership like sevenfold. I think when we came in, they probably had a few, maybe 100 or more or less
Hmm.
members, and I think we boosted the membership up all the way up to like 700 or 600 people. So in doing that, there was a pushback in my opinion and in my members of the committee's opinion. There was a pushback from the powers that be, not within the organization but the people outside the org, like the record companies and the music publishing companies and stuff like that. They felt like, oh, you're getting all of these members, whereas we have all of these people signed, and we need to make sure that they get proper consideration for these award programs. So that's what started it. And so when they pushed back, and some of the residue, as you may say, there's a song called
I
Residue
love that song.
by Jason Nelson. But so some of the pushback that we got, um, said, hey, they don't want to see up and coming independent artists to be successful. I'm talking about these
Wow.
organizations outside of the organization that we
That's
served on.
ridiculous. That
They
is
don't want them to become successful. So how can we help them? Well, the best way to help them would be to teach them how to build their music business basic foundation. That's where it started. And then they made me president of the advisory board. And after that, I guess people thought I had so much power, and I was getting hit left and right, about helping independent artists. So
well.
that's what started it all.
Hold
So
it right there,
what
Miss Harris. You mean to tell me that there was actually record labels not wanting the indie artists to go forth?
That is correct. And I won't be specific about any particular labels, but yes, there are record labels because, okay, they are in business. They
Hmm.
are in business. And when you're in business and you are a for profit company, what
Hmm.
is your objective? Your objective is
To
to
make
make
money.
money, make revenue. Because there's another saying that the movement of money creates wealth.
Hmm.
So if money is not moving, you can't create any wealth, right?
Hmm.
So it is their intention to, like, when they sign artists or whatever, they want those artists to get all of the recognition. They want them to
Hmm.
appear on all of the shows. They want them to be considered for,
Hmm.
all of these Hall
No,
of
it's not.
Fames and all of this other stuff.
Hmm.
So, but the independent artist is like part of the remnant of people in the wilderness that don't realize that if they just go 10, 12, 13 feet forward, they can be out of the wilderness.
Wow.
Hmm.
So, yes, there is a group of people that are gatekeeping and controlling. But if the artists learn how to build their music business basic foundation, they don't have to worry about them because they can just jump right on the expressway and pass them by.
And you know what's so important about what you're saying? Because, like you said, we can villainize it, but like you said, that's they're in there to make business. If I own a record company and I have artists, I'm gonna want to push them forward because I got bills to pay. I've made a standard of living, whether it's right or wrong. That's why you see a lot of artists who have signed with labels and then they start to understand in the business, they break off, they
Right.
create their own label, they do those
Right.
things, but sometimes that's too late for people. I say all the time because I'm in the acting and modeling industry, you can go to any subway in any major city, any downtown, and see someone on the corner that has way more talent
Mm, mm,
than someone that you see here on the radio. And you go,
That's
why is
correct.
this person not on the radio? Because they didn't know the game. Quincy Jones, for whatever anyone thinks of Quincy Jones, he's notorious for doing that thing of walking by artists that he would see and whisper, just randomly whisper some knowledge in their ear and keep it moving,
Right.
mm, mm,
dropping those little tidbits because he knew the game, he knew the gatekeeping. But when he would see someone, they always see these interviews where people would say, Quincy Jones just randomly walked up to me and he just dropped this knowledge in my ear and walked off,
mm, mm, mm,
Absolutely.
And so there's always been people like you who's like, listen, I know the game, but I'm not just going to hold it all the information in my head. Let me see how I can spread it to the people
wow.
um, that can use this information to follow their dreams. But the important thing that you're saying is, this is what I hear when you say that. Stop thinking about the lights and the stage and the awards and the accolades and think about how do I get there
How
and
did you
where do I
build
start?
that basic foundation? That's what I'm saying.
Mhm,
So what we did was we said, okay, um, in order to prove that we're going to do it the right way,
mhm,
we established a 501c3.
Okay.
501c3, first of all, is nonprofit, right?
Mm, okay.
Tax exempt. We want to be nonprofit. So people would say, "Oh, yeah, 501c3. How are you going to be nonprofit? How are you going to get funds to operate and so forth?" So when we established the nonprofit, we said, okay, what is the mission of the nonprofit? So the mission of the nonprofit is to teach the business of music and help artists create quality content that inspires the music arts.
That's
Okay?
good.
So you hear what I'm saying? So
Yes.
the very first thing in building a music business basic foundation to those people who are playing at the subway, playing on the street, people who were playing in their garage. Because I started playing music in the garage. We would pull up the garage before we go to school, and I played drums before the bus came. So to that's what, and believe it or not, sometimes we are on to ideas and don't even realize it. Because when I started in the garage, I never knew that Apple would come out with a garage band.
Wow.
You follow what I'm saying?
Mhm,
So you just gotta. So the very first step in trying to participate in the business of music
mhm.
is to create quality content.
That's good. You know what, Mr. Harris, is kind of funny because I started out as well in the garage. I was in the garage and one day I saw a baby copperhead. And I'm telling you, I got out in that garage. I had I had to go. And the little snake, he was trying. I said, who you think you are? I know you ain't trying to bite me with your little cell. I said, but wait a minute, if there's a little snake, it's probably a big one. I got out of there. I
Yeah.
killed the snake
Right.
though, but I killed him. Oh my God. Go
Well,
ahead on.
and if you and if you like me, I'm from a small town called Portsmouth, Virginia. But if you're down like out in the country, sort of like, you know that if you see a snake, all you got to do is grab, a garden tool, like a hoe or whatever, and you're taller than they are. All you got to do is hit them one time; they won't bother you
There
no
you
more.
go.
But anyway, that's the key because when most of the artists that we deal with nowadays and we have consultations with, they have problems because they don't protect that quality content. Because remember, I said step one is to create quality content, right?
Right.
So step two is to protect that content.
Okay. Gotta
Okay.
protect. Okay.
So that means when I say protect it, what does that mean? That means I'm gonna have my copyright in order.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to rely on, the poor man's copyright that they always tell you. Just go to post office and mail it to yourself.
That's what
That's
they
no
say.
good because if you don't register with the U.S. Copyright Office, you you have no protection from the U.S. government. That's quite now. That could be neither here or there when you say the U.S. government is protecting you, but you got to register your copyright in order to have protection. Don't go out here and perform that music and do anything with that music without protecting it. That's the second piece. So
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's that you say that because I'll hear artists say, "Well, I was told that if I put the music out first, it's dated and time stamped, and I can go back." I said, "Yeah, but do you want to pay to go through a whole bunch of court uh, hearings and fight over that?" The artist Jacinia, very good friend of mine. She's a singer. She started out as an actress or model. Her name is Jacinia, and she put out some music on YouTube about, I want to say, 10 years ago. Well, another artist named Jacinia came and did the same type of music, branded herself as the artist Jacinia. I'm not getting the name exactly correct. I'm trying to remember it. And then that artist sent my Jacinia a cease and desist letter from a lawyer saying she cannot be called the artist Jacinia and she
right.
has to stop being promoted as the artist Jacinia. So she had to jump through hoops, lawyers' fees, court fees, and then she ended up sending her a cease and desist later, and that letter and that artist had to stop calling herself the artist Jacinia. But that was 3 years of money and fighting that she had to do to get her own name back
That's correct.
in her music.
Because she if she had just protected that name
Hmm.
in the beginning, then nobody could use it. And s- and I just believe that that second step is very important to after you create that quality content. But then as we flow through the different concept, I mean not concept, but the different steps that you artists should take.
Mm-hmm.
The next step is when after you copyright the content, then you got to add your coding. And like you just said with the lady that was using the name and so forth. But with music, music has to have what they call metadata. And
Okay.
the metadata is the name of the song, name of the artist, and then you got to add specific codes to it, like the ISRC code, the UPC code. So you put all of those codes with it, and when you go into that studio, and if you can't go into a studio where the person can add your codes to your recording, then you need to find another studio. They may make it sound nice and it may be beautiful and all that other stuff, but if they can't put those protectors into that music by
Mm-hmm.
encoding it into the music, then they're doing you a disservice.
Could you tell us what those codes mean, Mr. Harris?
Yes, the ISRC code is known as the International Standard Recording Code.
Mm-hmm.
That is your revenue tracker. That is the code that's going to track that music from the time that is created in the studio, and then you, of course, you got to register the code, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's your international standard recording code, and it's made up of. It's a long code, but it's very simple what it's made up with. The very first two letters in the code represent the country that you created the music in. So, like if your ISRC code begins with US, that means it was, created in the United States,
Okay.
right? Or once they ran out of the US codes, then they started putting like the QM or, different other letters.
Okay.
But those codes are assigned to the US. Then you get your a specific code in that code that is designated to your organization. So let's say if you had Lesette Publishing Company
Okay.
and you had your Bank of ISRC code, the next set of digits in the code protects your is for your company. So it may be 33 or 339. Okay, so that's your your company code. After that is the date that you created the recording. That's built into the code, and
Mm-hmm.
then all of the digits that's be next to the date represent the, what they call like the your code of the record that you put in. So let's say if this is your first record that
Mm-hmm.
you create, so that last five digits might be 0001.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
And then you can have your next one say 0002, because all of the other codes in front of that is what protects you. The country, the business code, and the date that it was created. Now, if you don't have any ISRC codes in your music, there are no revenue trackers, which means that you can have a million views and get paid X amount of dollars. You probably won't see it because they don't know where to send it to.
Okay. Let me ask you this. I have two questions within one. Where do you get the code from? How do you get the code? And if you've already put out music that does not have codes, can you put the code in there at a later date?
Yes, you can now, but it's a little. Well, I'm gonna say it's a little complicated, but it's really not that complicated. First of all, the codes. Where do they come from? You can get the codes from usisrc.org. usisrc.org. That's a nonprofit entity. Now,
Mhm.
notice see we have been focusing on the theme of nonprofit. People not in the business to make money, right? So
Right.
now your ISRC codes that you can get are put out by a nonprofit organization, and
Okay.
it's called usisrc.org.
Okay.
And so you go there and you can get a bank of codes. Some artists, you might have to pay. I think it used to be $80, but now I think it's up to $100. But that $100 allows you to create over 100,000 codes,
Wow.
because you will get your company identifier. Those first five digits in the beginning,
Mhm.
and okay, and then after that, you can add your date and you can add the number of the recording on the
Okay.
behind that. So that's where you go. Now, some people say, well, is USISRC.org in the business of making money? No, because they were created by I can't, give me a minute. I have to think of the organization. Is the RIAA. And I know these are a lot of acronyms, but the RIAA is the
Uh-oh.
Okay. We
He'll be
see
back. Okay. So, yeah. Don't worry. He'll be back.
um
Oh, there he is. Okay.
it's very important to realize that the Recording Industry Association of America is what tracks all of your sales. So, like if an artist say, "Hey, um, uh, I want my record to go gold. I
Mm-hmm.
want it to go platinum," it's blah 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 blah, right?
Uh-huh.
In order for your record to go gold or to go platinum, it has to be counted by the RIAA,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
They're the ones that created the ISRC, the USISRC.org. They created that organization to create these revenue trackers. So if you are an artist with no ISRC codes on your music, you will never go gold. You will never go gold, and you may never go platinum, or you may not even go even close to that. So that's what I'm saying. If you don't have the revenue trackers, it's going to take you a long time. And on a side note, and this is not to put down gospel music, but I just want to show you what happens.
Okay.
If you notice with gospel music, it takes an artist possibly anywhere from 5 to 7 years just for a record to go gold. And
Mm.
that's sad.
It
It's
is.
sad because of the revenue flow that's within gospel music. But there are some R&B artists who will put a record out today. Let's say today is Monday,
Mm-hmm.
and they can probably go gold by Friday.
Wow.
You
Mm.
see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
7 years for us, 5 days for an R&B artist because they know
Crazy.
what to do. They put everything in place from the time that they create that content.
Let me ask
That's
you this then,
yes.
Mr. Harris, excuse me. Are there distribution companies that will put the codes in there for you?
Sure they are, but it's so simple that you can do it yourself.
You need to
Now,
know.
here's a couple of steps. Well, here's one step that I recommend that if an artist feel that they don't have the proper ISRC codes, this is what I recommend. Number one, go to the website for, let me see. I want to have the, what if there's a you just go into Google and type in USISRC
Hmm.
search,
Okay.
and there is a website that you can go to and put your music, the title of your music in, and to see if you actually have a code or not. If you
Okay.
have codes, if your music is coded.
That's great. I know I see somebody in the
Sound Exchange is the
sound
place to
exchange.
go.
That's it.
Yes,
That's it.
soundexchange.org. You go to soundexchange.org. They maintain a database.
Hmm.
They maintain the database for, matter of fact, they have a main tab on the home page when you go to Sound Exchange.
Okay.
And you can just click on that tab and the ISRC database will open. So you can just put the name of the song in, or you can put the name of the artist in, and you can search to see if your music have codes or not. The artists may have a code assigned to them and they didn't even know.
Wow. That's good. That's good. I see somebody in the chat said great information from Ken and Clarence Carnegie said knowledge.
Yeah, you also got to be careful when you're doing internet searches of these money hungry sites. He's mentioning .org, .gov, all of these because there's a bunch of sites that are .com that'll charge you exorbitant amount of money
Well,
to do the
and you
things that
don't
you
want
can do
you're
for
right.
free.
You want to stay. That's the whole point here.
Hmm.
The
Hmm.
whole point is to empower the artist and not to say go to this site. They're gonna charge you X amount of dollars a month just to find out information. Sound Exchange is an organization that was created by the government. See, that's what I'm saying. Music business is the government has been trying to help artists, right? And a lot of times people, the Bible says people perish for the lack of knowledge,
Hmm.
but they never get past that B clause. And
Wow.
what is the B clause? The B clause is because they refuse the knowledge.
Mm, mm,
You
mm.
go back and read it. It's right there. Everybody said, "Oh, people perish for the lack of knowledge. People perish." And why? Why do they perish for the lack of knowledge? Because they refuse the knowledge. And the knowledge is right there for nonprofit, just like you mentioned. Just like you mentioned. And when you go to Sound Exchange protects the artist's music that is played by internet radio and online platforms. So
Hmm.
they have some skin in the game, you might say, and it's because they were created by the U.S. Copyright Office. That's what I'm. This sometimes, Lisette,
Hmm.
this stuff makes my head hurt and my heart ache. Why? Because if you look at it, everybody's trying to help the artists, but sometimes they don't want to listen. They just want to go get on a showcase,
Ooh.
win this award, that award. There's some artists I know. that may have a whole bookshelf full of awards, right?
Mhm.
But they're not selling any product.
Wow.
They're not selling anything. And if you're not selling anything, you will never go gold. You will never go platinum. You know, matter of fact, the little money that you are making or could be making is probably on a site called Unclaimed Royalties.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
and you know that we showed y'all that
Yes.
website in the class as well.
Yes, you did.
Unclaimed. Can you explain a little bit?
Wow.
Someone asked this via email, so I have to check the email because we still have, some people that they don't know how to do the live or comment. No, no disparaging on them. I keep hearing things about master tape. Own your master tape. What are master tapes, and is that still a thing?
Well, your masters is basically uh, what's created in the studio. That's what they
Mhm.
call the masters. Okay, so when you go into the studio, let me back up just a little bit because I feel like I'm not trying to preach here, but I'm just trying to
Hmm.
make sure artists understand what I'm saying. And
Hmm.
Lisette, you heard this before.
I have.
When you go into the studio, number one, go in there with a notebook. You take a
Mhm.
notebook into the studio, and with all of these PowerPoints and Word
Mhm.
documents, you can create a whole notebook for every page that I'm telling you about.
Yes.
So you go into the studio with a notebook and you write down all of the basic information, like, okay, number one, who are all of the musicians in the studio with me?
Mhm.
Okay. Who's playing the drums? Who's playing guitar? Who's playing the horns? Who's playing the organ or whatever? You write all those names down.
Yes.
You write down the name of the person doing the recording that's controlling the studio
Mhm.
because that person is in control of your what they call your masters. Your masters are the master recording that you leave there with. That is what you send to disc makers, TuneCore, and
Mhm.
all them other folks where you want distribution.
Yeah.
Those are your masters. But remember, I told you that when you go into the studio, you want to make sure that they can put your coding into your recording, like your
Mhm.
ISRC code, which is the International Standard Recording Code. You burn that into the master. Then, if you're doing a whole album or if you're doing a single, you want to make sure that you have a UPC code,
Mhm.
which is the United, which is the I call it the United, but it's Universal Product Code. It's like when you go in the store, everything you pick up in the store, I
Mhm.
don't care where you go, Home Depot,
Yes.
Safeway, or whatever.
Mhm.
Every time you put the item across that machine, it scans it.
Mhm.
That's what you want on your record. If you don't have a UPC code, you don't belong in the music business.
Mm, mm.
What you belong is at the subway, just like she was saying earlier, handing out free records.
Wow.
Okay. Because if you don't have a universal product code on the back of that product, you don't belong in this business.
Can I
So,
ask you something, Miss Harris?
yes.
Is it possible that if you don't have your codes when you go to record in the studio, can't the distribution center put the codes in when you actually do your copies of your music?
They can't because, well,
Well, here's the
but
problem.
here's the problem.
Hmm.
Now, if you don't have a UPC code and then you rely on disc makers or
Hmm.
TuneCore or any of the other ones to put a UPC code on that music, sometimes you don't know where that code has come from.
Okay, I see where you at.
And
Well, yeah, because
that's the issue because there was a record company in Oklahoma.
Hmm.
Okay. And I think y'all probably know it. I think they were in Mustang, Oklahoma, somewhere. I can't, my memory is not always good as it's supposed to be, but there's a company in Oklahoma that was shut down. Matter of fact, they were shut down for fraud. And the two people that was running the company got convicted of their felony convictions because they were selling, they had created music, and they had artists record these music, record their masters and all this other stuff, but they were putting the same UPC code and the ISRC code from other people's music on the new people coming through.
Oh, wow.
So if that happens, that's why I just told you. I told you to have the artists go to Sound Exchange. Go to Sound Exchange and check to see what your ISRC code is, if it's there. And if it's not there, then you need to register it. And
Okay.
that was the other step that we was going to go through. But let's go back to that notebook in the studio.
Yes.
When you take the notebook into the studio and you write all of that stuff down, then you need to put down whether or not you and the person recording have
Hmm.
any deal points. That means that if
Mm-hmm.
he or she is acting as a producer,
Hmm.
whether or not you have agreed to pay them any percentages of
Hmm.
your music. If
Okay.
you say, hey, I am just here to get my music recorded and I'm going to pay you for hire,
Right.
they have no attachment to that music. That's
Hmm.
why that has to be clear. Because if it's not clear, what will happen is you will not own your masters.
Hmm. Hmm.
You will not own the masters because a percentage would be allocated to the producer, which
Right.
means that you may never even do anything. It's just like stocks and bonds. Some people buy stocks and sit on them and they don't go higher than a dollar, but
Hmm.
they got ownership, right?
Right.
But if for instance your music you go gold and the RIA certifies you as gold and you done sold over 500,000 copies and so forth, that producer that had those deal points while you were in the studio is looking
Hmm.
for their pay.
Right.
You
Hmm.
have to pay them, or you want on the master. And then if you don't pay them, they can say, I'm going to sell my portion of my masters because they're not all yours. I'm going to sell them to, Sony, Warner, Universal. There's only three major record labels
Right.
these days:
Yeah.
Sony, Warner, and Universal. So if you do that, then they own a piece of your music. They can register it and they can do whatever. They can put it on commercials or whatever. And you're sitting back looking stupid because you didn't know that when you went into the studio, you didn't put the agreement in place. So, my advice to you is
Hmm.
that when you go into the studio, you indicate what ownership position are you in. So if you said, "Hey, I'm just here paying them for hire. I'm gonna pay them $300, and we're out of here, and I'm
Right.
leaving with my masters." That's what you want.
Best way.
That's the best way to do it. Hire them. Do not attach them to your music. Otherwise, you will never own your masters, and that's what happened. I may be a little off centered when I say that's what happened to Ray Charles. But if you notice, that record label that he was with at first brought him in and said, "Oh, we're gonna do everything for you. We're gonna buy you a car.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna give
Mm-hmm.
you a Cadillac. We're gonna give you
Mm-hmm.
this. We're gonna give you clothes. We're gonna give you
Mm-hmm.
that." And then when he went to go from one record label to another, he couldn't. He had to buy the other company out. Because, and then
Yeah.
when he went to the new company, the very first thing he said when they were saying, "Well, Mr. Child, what do you want from us?" The first thing that he said is, "I want to own my masters."
Yes.
Yeah.
Go back and look at the movie.
Yeah.
He said, "I want to own my masters." Every artist under the sound of my voice or listen to this
Mhm.
recording over and over. That should be your end game. You
Yes.
want to own your masters. I don't care if you don't have the money to pay the producer, save some money, pay him on
Yes.
time, do layaway, whatever you got to do. But be the owner of those masters. Remember, I said in the beginning of all of this, your very first objective is to create quality content.
Yeah. The biggest thing I got from what you said, because people say, well, Lisette brought up, well, what about later? Can they do this from the beginning? From the beginning, if you know how to do something, you don't have to rely on a bunch of people that you don't know to do those things. And I always say, how many examples do we need before people understand that they need to find out what they're doing? You just gave a great example of Ray Charles. We know many artists back in the day just got robbed of their riches
Oh,
and their
absolutely.
songs. That's why they put out a song and they're like, how am I seeing my song on the radio by someone who doesn't look like me? Because you don't own the song.
That's right.
We saw Prince go through this, with record companies. You can
You
go
know,
on YouTube and watch YouTube short after YouTube short of Lil Wayne, of everybody sitting here saying the things that you're saying. Do you know what points mean? Do you know what this means? Know what this means, because they all fall for the same trap. If you come from a place where you don't have a lot of resources, don't have a lot of money, and someone comes in an office and hands you $200,000 in a new car, you're distracted.
hmm
That is
'Cause
correct.
You're
and look, this
distracted because you have a large sum of money that you've never dealt with. I always someone told me this mindset: when someone offers you a ridiculous amount of money, that means they're about to make a ridiculous amount of money and you need to pause.
right.
Correct.
This reminds me what the man said on Cadillac Records. He said, "I don't borrow against the stove. You want a daddy?" He said, I got a daddy. Just pay
Right.
me what you owe me. It was so funny. He said, just pay me what you owe me. I don't borrow
Mhm,
against the stove. I mean, I never forgot that because it was so funny. And it's the
And
truth.
that's what we're up against. I
mhm,
mean, because you got so many vulnerable people,
mhm.
and vulnerable people are
Make bad
in
decisions.
they take advantage of independent artists.
Mhm,
Mhm.
mhm,
And now I have radio going. We get ready to open up a low powered radio station. We got radio going. We're trying to get this TV channel. We got a TV channel up on Roku. We're trying to get all of these different things going, right? So I could easily say that I want to be on the side of radio and the side of TV. I don't want to help the artists because it's going to hurt the business aspect of what we're doing. We can easily say that, but we, I feel that once again, in the beginning of this conversation, I said I was an artist and I didn't even know it because I didn't know it because I didn't know what to do. All I knew is how to play the instrument. And matter of fact, you mentioned my master's degree. When I got that master's degree from Berkeley College,
Mhm.
number one, as I went, went through the classes, I already knew everything that they were teaching me. And
Mm.
I sometimes I would have these conversations with them and say, because the very first thing I'll give you an example. The very first thing that we learned and the very first thing in the very first class that I had to take in that master's program was revenue for artists.
Okay.
Money. I just told you about the ISRC code. I told you about the movement of money. I told you all that. I had to learn that there were 43 streams of revenue for artists. I already knew that. We
Mm-mm.
were already teaching. We gave Lisette, we gave you a handout that shows you the 43 streams of revenue. And that's
43.
what they were teaching me. They were saying, "Oh," and you said, "Well, what are the 43 streams of revenue that can support an artist while they're trying to become an artist?" Number
Uh-huh.
one, there's publishing. You get money from publishing. Number
Mhm.
two, you can sell the records. Number three, you can sell sheet music. And you can go on and on and on. You can get performances, concerts, all that. All of that adds up to 43 streams. So there should be no artists out here playing in front of the subway trying to earn money unless they're just down on their luck, right?
Right.
So because you got 43 streams. So here's the thing. You should be able, as an artist should be able to go through and make sure that each one of those streams of income are tied back to them. And the codes are in place, everything that happens, because if they don't, they will make money off of Spotify. I was listening to y'all talk about your numbers and stuff on YouTube, just like YouTube and so forth. You can get thousands and thousands of views
Mm-hmm.
and never earn a dime.
There we
And
go.
when that happens, you got to ask yourself, what is the problem? The problem is there's no way that the one of those streams of revenue or multiple streams of revenue have the ability to get to you.
Wow. That's powerful. And that's so even for YouTube, um, you can it can go back to you even from YouTube
Yeah, but
with your
see, the
code.
difference is with and there's a distinct difference, and I hope artists realize this as well, and they can look it up. Everything I'm telling you, and we're saying on this on your program today is verifiable, which means that you can check always check the checker. Okay, um, YouTube is different service than Spotify, Apple Music, and all those others.
Okay.
Because all of the streaming services for music, they are, they are covered by the US government. And YouTube has some type of regulations as well. But YouTube was set up for video
Mm-hmm.
because your music is like if you got a music video or you have a lyric video or whatever, it's all video. So it's in a different classification. So they pay you separate than Spotify, Apple Music, and all the others.
Okay.
So with Spotify, Apple Music, and all the other streaming services, if you are not a member of the MLC, which is Mechanical Licenses Collective, I know y'all get mad at me because I'm throwing out all these acronyms, but
Wow.
if you're not a member of the MLC, and the website for the MLC, the THEMLC.com. Now you might say, "Oh, that's .com. They're in business to make money." No, the MLC was set up by the Copyright Office, by the government,
Mm-hmm.
because what happened was the streaming services, in a nutshell, they have what they call the Music Modernization Act, right? And what happened, the streaming services were using the excuse that they were playing artists like Lesette
Mm-hmm.
and all these other gospel artists. I say mainly gospel artists because most of the gospel artists they couldn't find. Okay, they were playing all of these artists,
Mm-hmm.
and they didn't know how to pay them. So they flooded the U.S. Copyright Office and say, "Hey, tell me where Lisette lives. Tell me where Henry Harris lives, so I can mail them the money for streaming." The Copyright Office came back and said, "We don't have time to be looking up all these people every time you want to pay somebody, right?"
Right.
So they created the Mechanical Licensing Collective, which means that if you are not a member of the Mechanical Licensing Collective, you will not get paid any money from Spotify. Spotify cannot pay you direct unless they have a direct licensing agreement between you and them. You have
Wow.
to become a member of the MLC. And then get this, you cannot join the MLC unless you self publish, right? Which
Okay.
means that if you, Lisette, you would have to set up Lisette Publishing. If you set up Lisette Publishing, that means you're self-published. So now you can join the MLC. Now you can get your money direct from them, from Spotify and all those others. But what most artists do, okay, is they go to disc makers, TuneCore, and they tell them we want you to be our publisher. And when they do that, you are not self-published, which means that when you go to the MLC, I know this is getting a little complicated. So when you go to the MLC, they tell you, or you can't become a member because you're not self-published. And so your money sits between the streaming services, the MLC gets it, but they don't know who to pay it to. All right. So the government said with the Music Modernization Act, get this, and if you don't believe me, pull up everything I'm telling you. So the government says that after a certain amount of time, if you can't identify who you need to send the money to, You get to send a portion to Lesette, you get to send a portion to Henry Harris, and you might say, why would they send money to Henry Harris and money that belonged to me? Well, I'm a member of the MLC, which means that the government has said all the surplus money eventually will have to be paid out to the people who are already members.
Really? So they're paying people's an artist money out to everybody else except for them.
They haven't started it yet, but they will because they're going to have to pay. It's all in the Music Modernization Act that most artists do not read.
Well, look, how would an artist go about um getting off of a getting away from a publishing company and get back doing it themselves? How would they do that?
Okay, first thing they should do is, if, especially if they were disc makers, because disc makers. Um, well, we call it disc makers, but it's all CD baby. It's all the same,
Hmm.
right?
Right.
Number one, if you notice, CD baby stopped selling the
Hmm.
publishing.
Yeah, they
They
did.
stopped selling the publishing. So everybody that's with them, there's a certain time of the year when that agreement expires that you can say, "Hey, I no longer want you to be my publisher or
Okay.
my publishing admin."
Okay.
Okay, then you
Okay.
get away from them, and then you. That's why when you build your foundation in the beginning, remember I said that you create the content, you register the content, and you protect the content. Then you should, like, let's say for instance, you should set up with the state of North Carolina. You should set up a publishing company. Let's set publishing, register it with the state. Okay, so then when you go to themlc.com, I'm gonna bring it up, make sure the website's still the same. Everybody that's listening to me right now, go to THEMLC and you will understand. They got a lot of information up there. You will understand what it's all about. Guess what they have on the front page of the website? It
What?
says over 3 billion in streaming royalties distributed, right? Are
Hmm.
you getting paid for your plays? So if you are listening to this program right now and you haven't received any streaming money, even though you're over 1,000 streams, you're not getting paid.
Hmm.
Because when you have a publisher in place like CD Baby, Disc Makers, or whoever, right?
Hmm.
They get paid. They send the money to them, and it's up to them to decide when to send the money to you.
Hmm.
So that's it. That's how it works.
Does that also um is that also right for Facebook or social media when you may qualify for monetization? Does that
Well,
also?
no, that's different. That's
Okay.
different because the MLC only handles the streaming services like
Okay.
Spotify, Apple, Deezer, all of those streaming services.
Hmm.
So
This
it's
is
different.
good.
Like I said, I just advise everybody to go to THEMLC and you see. And then they also have a public search up there, which means that if you're not sure whether you're in this or not, or who has the publishing on your music,
Hmm.
you can click the public search button and look for your song and see if, and it will come back and it will tell you who's the publisher.
Okay.
It will tell you who's the publisher.
Hmm. This is awesome.
Because they're using when they were set up by the government, they told the government that they was going to use Harry Fox database.
Okay. Is it so that the administration office now have made it so that songwriters get more revenue from their music now? Did they pass a law about that? I thought I was reading something about.
You mean the right? Well, the copyright office is they haven't finalized it yet, but they're going up on the rate, on
Hmm.
the streaming rate that artists would receive from the music. If that's what you're asking, that is
Yes,
correct.
that's what I was asking. Wow, this is so good. I mean, I know we're almost to that hour mark. I don't even want to let this go. I mean, this is so much information, Mr. Harris. I mean, you are an amazing man and phenomenal. I'm telling you, I don't even want to let it go, Keone. I tell you, I don't want to let it go, but I
Well,
know we gotta let it go.
just keep in mind that it may be a time when you want to, um, maybe we can come down to your area or somewhere else in North Carolina and other different places, and we can have, we can have some webinars.
That'll
We
be
could do
good.
some in-person webinars. The
Okay.
thing about it, a lot of artists will go, like you mentioned, the Stellars. The Stellars has already passed for this year,
Hmm.
so a lot of artists would go to the showcases and then they would have these panel discussions at the same time on the showcase.
Hmm.
But they don't even scratch the surface of what we talked about today.
Wow.
Because I also said, and I know you'll be able to go back and listen to the tape and you say he was right. Yeah, he did say that or whatever. But I also said in the beginning that there are a remnant of people, and I call them independent artists who are still in the wilderness, and that if they just go forward just a little bit, they could be out of there. Remember how the Bible referred to? They sent out the scouts. And
Yes.
they came back and said, "Hey, the people over there, the fruits are big as." The pomegranate fruits, the fruits were so big, and the people, and they came with all these excuses. Don't be afraid of these record labels. Don't be afraid of the music business. I wrote when I finished my master's degree in music business. The topic that I wrote about was the nexus between music education and music business, and that nexus, that that heavy word, it only means connection.
Hmm.
So it's just said the connection between music business and music education. And what I meant by that was a lot of artists have gone to school and they've been in the band, they've been in the orchestra, they took vocal lessons, they took all of this music education, but
Hmm.
never once did those schools teach them anything about the music business.
Wow.
And that's what happens. So you become this master musician. Hey, I can do this and I can sing and I can hold a note and I can, put that high note out there, whatever. You become the master musician, but
Hmm.
then you sit around and say, how come I'm not making any money?
There we go. This is good. This is so good. I'm telling you. Thank you, Mr. Harris, for coming. I mean, oh
Thanks for
wow.
having me.
I mean, just know that Mr. Harris, like he says, he teaches webinars and he has an academy, and also he's getting ready to launch his radio station, WEMA 94.3 FM. So
Yep.
this
Low
is
powered
coming soon.
FM in Fort Washington, Maryland.
There we go. And I'm telling you, how can they get up with you, Mr. Harris, if they need to get up with
Well,
you?
if they could always email me, my email is hharris strategicema.org. That's HHARRIS at strategic EMA. That's STRATEGICEMA.org. They can reach me that way. Just email me. And if you have something coming up, you want to have a conversation, you want to talk, you need consultation or whatever, just email me and we'll set it up.
This is so good. Thank you, Mr. Harris, for coming on Rise with Lisette. All you guests out there that did some writing in the chat. We hope we answered your questions, and share this information with another friend of yours, another artist. Okay, Mr. Harris. Go ahead on, Mr. Harris.
No, I was just going to say if I reach if we reach just a small portion of the people that your show is reaching, I mean, that would be great. You know what I mean?
Amen.
If we could just help one or two, that would be great.
I know Clarence Cornegay said, "You, Mr. Harris, are a great teacher because you care. Thank you."
Thank
I
you.
know out of the two things you talked about today, because again, saying, well, Lisette knows I coach actors and models, and one of the things in the program I work in that's different is we have business meetings one Tuesday a month. And I would always get upset because we'd have 300 registered talent. And when I log onto the business meeting, it's 60 people.
Right,
But when we do introduction to improv, everyone's there.
right.
And I'm like, guys, it's not just about knowing how to act and knowing how to walk on a runway. You have no idea what you're getting into, And for 2 years, I've been yelling and yelling and screaming. Now we get so many people on the business meeting, everyone can't get in the meeting. But it used to always baffle me that barely 25% of the talent would show up to the monthly business meeting. So everything you were saying today just resonates with that. And out of the 27,000 subscribers, more than one or two of y'all better be listening today. Go back and watch this
Yeah,
video,
because
or we're gonna fight. Um,
everybody
yeah.
else on the other side that we mentioned, the record labels and so forth,
Hmm.
they don't want to hear this
Oh no, of
because they
course.
say, "Hey, no, 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 you telling them too much."
Yeah, it's the same thing with life. Steve, I forgot his name. Steve, he wrote the book How Money Works, and it's one of the most successful financial books, New York bestseller, and it's written at like a seventh or eighth grade education level. And every time he went on an interview, whether it was Good Morning America, everywhere to go, why did you write this book so simple? He goes, because every time you read a financial book, if you feel like you need a PhD, because they don't want you to
Mhm.
know
That's
how
it.
money works and how to earn money. So I
Wow.
said, no, I'm going to tell everybody how it works. And that's just the way the business world is, folks. Um,
Can we give them just one quick thing?
yeah,
And I
Sure.
promise you, I'm done. Um,
I don't believe you.
yeah, yeah, yeah. If they would go to, if they could just Google AFM. AFM stands for American Federation of
Hmm.
Musicians, right?
Mhm.
If they just Google AFM and unclaimed royalties and go to that website and just put their name in and see if they are owed any of those 43 streams of income. Let's go to
Wow.
AFM. It's and then it's unclaimed royalty. Just Google that. It'll come up. And and then you just go to that website, put your name in. It says first name, last name, or whatever, and see if your name comes up. If your name comes up, it's go all the way to the right. There's a little tab that you can click on. The people in California will send that money to you.
Wow. Awesome. Awesome
Hmm.
sauce. I tell you, Mr. Harris, woo!
Let's end with that.
We're going to end it with that.
Go get
Thank you
paid.
so much for coming. Listen, everybody, make sure that if you need Mr. Harris, reach out to him. And thank you for coming on Rise with Lisette. And you know what? There's no excuse to be dumb anymore.
No
He laid it
excuse.
out there for us, all right?
No excuse.
No excuse. And thank you so very much for coming on Rise with Lisette. And you have a wonderful day.
See y'all later. Bye.